In the current socio-political climate, it is more important than ever to acknowledge the power that the press possesses. This means that it is not simply enough to accept what the media is showing or to simply take in whatever the traditional or normal newspaper that you may be used to is stating, because it is not representative of the climate in our country. In the recent years, trust in the general press has declined, and this is an accompanied statistic alongside the decline of the American people's trust in the government as a whole. There are specific factors that will be listed out that have contributed to the decline in the trust of the people and the government. However, as a whole, this decline has been incredibly consistent, and we can now see that we are at an all-time statistical low in terms of people's trust in the government. The place where news comes into play with this is actually incredibly relevant, tied in, and significant. To discredit the power of news is to not understand the historical precedents set by cases such as New York Times Co. versus the United States, specifically the Pentagon Papers. To elaborate on this case specifically had a lot to do with the decline in trust of the American people with the government. This was because New York Times fought to release the Pentagon Papers, which detailed information that was not being provided to the American people, and therefore exposed the government for its lies and their cover-ups. The American people are deserving of more information than they are being provided with, and they are deserving of accurate information that also encompasses more marginalized communities' opinions, which is not something that is traditionally valued in large newspapers. With no names being mentioned of specific large newspapers, these issues are clear and prevalent. They will prioritize certain groups of people's opinions, and it is very clear with certain wording which political affiliations they are a part of. And with that being said, a solution is necessary and timely. The precedence of New York Times Co. versus the United States already establishes a bit of the importance of news, and this importance cannot be undermined. So to talk a little bit about the costs of newspaper, these have actually been rising, even though the trust in the newspaper itself has been statistically declining. This means that to get to access to more quality news material, it is costing significantly more over a time period. News is a right for the American people, and although there are news sources that do not charge fees or have stayed more consistent over time, the fact of the matter is that these larger corporations that are charging higher amounts over time is subjecting the American people to a more disconnected view of the news and current events. Not to mention that with these being large and larger corporations, this means that smaller voices who may have significant and relevant information on the matter will not be heard at that level. That is not a fault of the newspaper, that is simply a scale issue that can only be solved at a smaller administrative level. And that is where we are founded. This is where Young Mind Mission differentiates from traditional news sources, because we are on a much smaller level and also student-run and not bound by contracts and businesses. This means that we can prioritize giving people's voices more power and giving a foundation where people can share their voices, their ideas, and their information on matter that is not being covered adequately. Not only that, but Young Mind Mission strays from the traditional way that newspapers are run, often in political association or affiliation with one of the two main parties. Instead, our main value is to find the truth of the matter and to be an accurate reporting service that is going to elevate more marginalized groups' voices and individuals who would otherwise not be allowed their input. This means inviting in conversations of debate and bringing in differences of opinions, because that is the greatest way to both grow your education and also your debating skills, to strengthen your own argument in the process. This can look like conflicting reports on events. However, the main thing is going to be accuracy. Pictures and videos and also the writing and forms themselves are all going to be submitted by people like yourself, regular citizens. It is not simply student run, but it is citizen run, and that is what differentiates us. If you believe that you have valuable input on any current event that has happened recently and you have felt underrepresented in, this is a place that will elevate your voice and your experience as important. If you do not have any of that experience, you can still be a valuable member of the organization or simply a bystander who looks to repost the content and also share it with peers. The value of this is indescribable. This looks like elevating community voice as a whole, as well as learning what it's like to have differences of opinions conflicting within one common space with respectful boundaries set. Please, I urge you that if you have any interest in the matter, repost this, share it, and also look for ways that you can be involved in this. Thank you.